I'd just like to say that Carole and I are absolutely delighted by today's announcement and thrilled at the prospect of a wedding sometime next year.
The shocking information that Carole Middleton just disclosed about Queen Camilla has been the subject of a lot of discussion on the internet ever since it was made public. Despite the fact that the two women appeared to maintain a civil relationship for a number of years, the underlying tensions are now coming to the surface. In what way could Carole have possibly caused such a commotion with her words? As we uncover the words that caused the palace to be in a state of disarray and caused the Queen to flee the country in the middle of the night, we invite you to tune in. Carole Middleton and Queen Camilla gave the impression that they were not always at odds with one another when tradition and change came into conflict. Over the course of several years, the two ladies maintained a united front at royal events, smiling and making pleasantries to the cameras for the duration of the event. On the other hand, cracks had already started to appear beneath the surface. There are those who are insiders who believe that the tension began to build up when Kate Middleton first joined the royal family. Carole, who is extremely protective of her daughter, exerted a great deal of effort in order to ensure that Kate was accepted by the company. Camilla, on the other hand, was said to have held a more conventional perspective regarding the ideal characteristics that a future queen consort ought to embody. For Camilla, whose upbringing in the upper echelons of British society shaped her perspective on royal decorum, Kate's middle-class roots seemed to be a sticking point. This is because some people take pride in Kate's origins, but Camilla seemed to find them bothersome. Even before we delve any further, it is abundantly clear that the revelation made by Carole Middleton cuts much deeper than anyone could have possibly anticipated. To add insult to injury, this is not the last truth that will shake the royal family. The relationship between Camilla Middleton and Kate Middleton's mother became increasingly strained as the wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton drew closer. It has been reported that discreet remarks have made their way into conversations. Jabs about social status and whispers about Kate's potential as a future queen are both in the discussion. It is said that Kate's mother perceived Camilla to have a condescending attitude, which gradually but surely created a barrier between the two women. Camilla's polished exterior served to conceal those feelings. She remained silent, resolute in her determination to maintain her composure, and she refused to give in to the provocations. Despite this, the tension continued to rise, with each royal gathering adding fuel to the fire that was already raging. The rift that existed between the two women had become so severe that it was impossible to ignore by the time William's children arrived. It has been reported that Camilla's efforts to exert influence over her daughter-in-law's role as a royal wife did not sit well with the mother of the younger woman. Her efforts to support her daughter appeared to be overshadowed by Camilla's growing influence, according to sources close to the Middleton family, who describe how she felt marginalized. The issue was not limited to titles or status alone. It was about the dynamics of the family as well as the power struggles that took place behind the palace doors without anyone taking notice. Camilla is said to have delivered the final blow during a private family gathering, where she is said to have made a series of remarks that the other woman could no longer ignore. It has been reported by those with knowledge of the situation that these remarks not only called into question her position within the family, but also harmed her relationship with her daughter. It was at this precise moment that she made the decision to take action. She was not only defending her own dignity, but she was also standing up for her daughter, who, despite her calm public image, was said to have felt the weight of Camilla's subtle criticisms over the years. She was saying that she was standing up for her daughter. As soon as her statement was finally made public, it caused shockwaves to travel throughout the royal circles. Her words conveyed a very clear message, despite the fact that she specifically did not name any names. She had grown weary of being discriminated against, and she decided that she would no longer keep her mouth shut. Her revelation painted a picture of a royal family that was significantly more divided than anyone had imagined it would be. It hinted at years of disrespect and manipulation towards the group. Some people interpreted her bravery to speak out as a direct challenge to Camilla's authority, which caused the delicately balanced dynamics of the monarchy to be shaken. Insiders at the palace were frantically trying to manage the fallout. Despite the fact that the royal family is famous for its mantra of never complain, never explain, silence appeared to be insufficient in this particular instance. The public's viewpoints were sharply dissimilar. Some individuals took the position of the mother of the younger woman, praising her bravery and expressing their disagreement with what they perceived to be Camilla's elitist attitude. Her decision to air the family's dirty laundry was met with criticism from others, who argued that decisions of this nature ought to be kept private. In either case, the damage had already been done, and the appearance of unity that the monarchy had maintained had suffered a significant blow. Over the course of several years, the relationship between the two women had been marked by a series of subtle power plays, and reports began to emerge about these power plays. The narrative painted a picture of two strong-willed women competing for influence in a family that thrives on hierarchy, beginning with their exclusion from certain royal events and continuing with whispers of disapproval regarding family decisions. The narrative painted a picture of these women. The more traditional and sometimes distant demeanor of Camilla was in direct opposition to the hands-on approach that Camilla's mother took toward her daughter and her unwavering support for her on a consistent basis. A power struggle that had been building up for years, both women were fighting to carve out their place in the royal landscape. It was a struggle that had been going on for years. However, the media frenzy that surrounded the statement did nothing but add fuel to the fire. As a result of this feud, headlines speculated about what these roles might hold for William in the future. Considering that they are the next generation of royal leaders, would the tension that exists between their families have an effect on their ability to present a united front? In addition, what about the other members of the royal family? In this highly publicized disagreement, were they taking a side, or were they merely attempting to maintain peace during the conflict? The words spoken by Carole caused the palace to shake, but the conflict between long-standing customs and contemporary concepts was not yet over. From the moment the dust began to settle, one thing became abundantly clear. The monarchy was at a crossroads. The conflict was not merely a personal one. It exemplified the difficulties that the monarchy encounters when attempting to strike a balance between modernity and tradition. A nation that celebrates social mobility and meritocracy, Britain, is undergoing a transformation that is symbolized by the mother of the younger woman, who came from a middle-class background and rose to prominence through hard work and determination. Camilla, on the other hand, is a symbol of the antiquated society, which is characterized by aristocratic privilege and stringent expectations. Despite the fact that it is deeply personal, their conflict is also representative of a larger cultural shift that is taking place within the royal family and the society that it represents. In the weeks that followed, both women appeared to withdraw from the public eye, which left those who follow the royal family to speculate about the long-term implications of their feud. Would it ever be possible for this rift to completely heal, or would it continue to simmer beneath the surface, thereby influencing the dynamics of the royal family for many years to come? At the moment, the answers are not entirely clear. However, there is one thing that can be said with absolute certainty. Never before has the monarchy been put to the test in terms of its capacity to adjust to the expectations of modern society. As a result of the mother's words reverberating throughout the room, the atmosphere became thick and almost oppressive. It wasn't just a suspicion that was made. The statement was a declaration, a spotlight shining on what she claimed to be Queen Camilla's carefully hidden schemes. She did not mince her words, and her tone left no room for uncertainty in the listener's mind. The accusation that she made was that Camilla's ascent to the throne was not only ambitious, but also ruthless. Everyone was taken aback by the sheer audacity of the accusations, and their silence was almost as dramatic as the claims that she made. She painted a vivid picture of a woman who knew how to manipulate and strategize the situation behind closed doors. She was a woman who knew how to pull strings. She claimed that Camilla moved people around like pieces on a chessboard, affecting them in a manner that was consistent with her grand plan. In every single decision, every single move, and every single whispered conversation, she implied that it was all a part of Camilla's elevation. As she continued to speak, the atmosphere in the room became more tense and the darkness increased, as if the walls themselves were taking in her words. Her remarks were not merely a criticism, rather, they were an outright dismantling of a royal facade that had been meticulously constructed. She asserted that Camilla's public persona was a facade that concealed a history of cold calculations and overt betrayals that were kept a secret from the public. The room, which had been filled with the quiet dignity of royal decorum in the past, was now alive with an undercurrent of shock and unease. Suddenly, the royal family, which served as symbols of stability and tradition, appeared to be fragile, and their legacy appeared to be on shaky ground. Still, she had not finished. Specifically, she disclosed what she referred to as the crown jewel of her revelations, which was a concealed past that Camilla had allegedly spent years trying to keep hidden. A number of financial scandals, including embezzlement, tax evasion, and money laundering, were detailed in the details, which were damning. These accusations were not merely insignificant transgressions. Rather, they were the kind of allegations that have the potential to bring down governments, let alone a royal reputation. Camilla, who is typically the epitome of composure, appeared visibly shaken, and her pale face revealed that she was in a state of shock. The queen consort appeared to be disoriented for a brief period of time, as the weight of these assertions caused her carefully crafted armor to crack. At this point, the palace itself had a different atmosphere. It was less like a representation of unwavering tradition and more like a house of cards that was about to fall over. An unwavering stance was maintained by Kate's mother, who fixed her gaze intently on Camilla's with a penetrating intensity. It was not just a matter of personal preference. Rather, it was a struggle for authority, legitimacy, and possibly even justice. As a result of the allegations, the royal family was forced to seek ways to contain the fallout, and their silence only served to exacerbate the situation. Even though this was not the first time that the British monarchy had been involved in a scandal, these allegations felt much more significant. They were not merely rumors or material for the tabloids. Rather, they were direct, cutting, and visible to the public. The monarchy, with its traditions that dated back hundreds of years, had persevered through storms in the past. Mistakes made in public, marriages that were broken because of duty, and abdications that shook the empire were all something that had been woven into its history. However, this felt more intrusive and potentially dangerous. It was the accusations made by Carole that brought to mind other instances in which the royal family's carefully maintained image had been compromised. Beginning with Edward VIII's abdication to Mary Wallace Simpson and continuing through Princess Margaret's turbulent marriage to Anthony Armstrong Jones, the monarchy had been plagued by internal tension for a considerable amount of time. These tales of treachery and struggles for power were not new. However, they had typically been contained within the walls of the palace, where they were whispered in hushed tones. As the royal family struggled to maintain its unity, Carole's allegations brought to light more profound disagreements that had been concealed for many years. It was the family feud that caused the palace to shake. What set this apart from other situations was Carole herself. Due to the fact that she was the mother of the future queen consort, she held a position that was both insider and outsider at the same time. Although she was familiar with the game, she was not bound by the same rules, and she had made it abundantly clear that she was not afraid to participate. The tension that existed between Carole and the royal family had been building up for a considerable amount of time, well before this very public event. It had begun in a stealthy manner, with relatively minor power plays and subtle jabs. Due to the fact that Carole was extremely protective of her daughter Kate, she frequently found herself in conflict with other senior royals regarding issues of influence and tradition. Her participation was occasionally regarded as an excessive step by those who were deeply embedded in the politics of the palace. A defining dynamic emerged as a result of the battle of wills that took place between Carole and other members of the royal circle. Both forces were resolute in their efforts to establish their position. The preparations for Kate and William's wedding had been a source of tension in the relationship. Some people interpreted Carole's involvement as interference, despite the fact that she had the intention of making sure that her daughter's day was perfect. During the pre-wedding reception, tensions rose as Carole experienced a sense of being disregarded, and her influence was called into question. Her relationship with the palace was shaped by this particular moment, which was a defining moment, a long simmering competition that only intensified with the passage of time. During the course of the conflict, it became abundantly clear that the conflict was not simply about personal grievances. Rather, it reflected larger issues that were occurring within the monarchy. There was a clash between modernity and tradition, as well as between personal ambition and the expectations of the public. At this point, the allegations made by Carole have been exposed, and the fallout has the potential to involve the entire royal family. A close look was being taken at reputations, and the monarchy itself appeared to be vulnerable, with its stability being stirred up. Carole took a firm stance despite the mayhem. The fire that was started by her words was not something that could be put out easily. The public and the palace were forced to confront truths that were unsettling as a result of her actions. Whether or not her assertions would be able to withstand scrutiny remained to be seen, but the impact of her statements was indisputable. Having been a symbol of resilience and continuity for a very long time, the British monarchy was now confronted with a new challenge. It was not enough to simply protect individual members of the family. Rather, it was necessary to protect an institution that had endured centuries of transformation. There was a lot riding on the outcome, and the stakes were extremely high. In spite of this, it was abundantly clear that Carole's words had altered the course of events, and the monarchy would never again be the same. In spite of the passage of time, the tension that existed between Carole and the royal household did not diminish. For all intents and purposes, it became more acute, with each new experience adding fuel to the fire. Given the power and influence that shaped these dynamics, there was no room for peace to exist. At that precise moment, when it appeared that their competition had reached its pinnacle, something came into existence, something that was so shocking that it threatened to destroy the delicate equilibrium that existed within the walls of the palace. We were on the verge of receiving a revelation, and once it arrived, there would be no turning back. Following the revelation of the bombshell information regarding their history, the world of one senior royal began to fall apart. A polished image of themselves as a dignified member of the royal family had been cultivated over the course of many years, but hidden truths that could not remain hidden for an infinite amount of time were buried beneath the surface. The revelation of these facts, which eventually came to light, caused shockwaves to travel throughout the palace. At first, the person was completely taken aback, frozen in disbelief, and their mind was racing as they attempted to comprehend what was taking place. Everything that they had labored so diligently to construct was in danger of being destroyed as the weight of their actions pressed down on them. Shock, on the other hand, quickly gave way to anger. As they angrily lashed out at everyone in their immediate vicinity, their faces contorted in rage. They blamed others for exposing their past, but they refused to accept responsibility for their actions. Anger reached a boiling point, and forgiveness appeared to be out of reach. On the other hand, as time went on, desperation replaced anger. They gradually became aware of the seriousness of the situation. They knew that they would never be able to step into the public eye again without being ridiculed, and their carefully crafted image was ruined as a result. They became a recluse, isolating themselves from the rest of the world because they were overcome with shame. The confines of their room turned into a prison for them, and the specters of their past tormented them. Reverberations of condemnation could be heard in every nook and cranny, and they saw visions of their own mistakes. Eventually, the mask that they had been wearing for years began to fall apart, and their hold on reality began to weaken. When the once commanding royal fell into a state of paranoia and isolation, the staff of the palace watched in horror as he went through this process. It was not the revelations themselves that brought about their complete demise. Rather, it was the web of lies and deceit that had finally caught up to them that brought about their downfall. Because of the pressure that was being put on the royal family, Kate Middleton was required to take charge and bring some order to the chaos. Introducing a new chapter for the royal family. The response of the royal family was just as dramatic as the revelations themselves. The betrayal that Prince William felt was the source of his rage, and he was furious about it. In spite of the fact that he had long struggled with certain family dynamics following the passing of his mother Diana, he was unable to forgive this particular situation. His wife, Kate Middleton, was inconsolable over the news. She had made an effort to cultivate cordial relationships, even considering certain people to be her mentors, despite the tensions that were present beneath the surface. At this point, Kate experienced feelings of both betrayal and disillusionment. Prince Charles, the eldest son of the Queen, was possibly the most conflicted of all the royal children. The first thing he did was deny the situation. Despite the fact that he had always been aware that the past was complicated, this was beyond anything he could have believed. As the truth of the situation became more apparent to Charles, he was no longer able to protect himself from the repercussions of his actions. His public image and his marriage both suffered a significant setback. As this was going on, Queen Elizabeth II was in utter disbelief. When the revelations were made, they were a bitter betrayal for a woman who placed the utmost importance on loyalty and integrity. Assistants were frantically trying to manage the fallout as the palace was thrown into complete disarray. In the midst of this storm, Kate Middleton discovered that she was being forced to make a decision. She had been praised in the past for being the ideal royal wife, but now she was confronted with the formidable task of assisting in the maintenance of the monarchy. She made her way through the chaos that surrounded the palace with William by her side as she accomplished this. In spite of this, she was clearly affected by the burden of the revelations, as well as the strain that they placed on her family. As a result of the stress that she was experiencing, Kate's normally calm demeanor began to deteriorate. Carole, Kate's mother, played the role of a rock of support for her daughter. Carole made it clear that she would always be there for her daughter, despite the fact that she had a troubled past with many members of the royal family. In spite of the fact that the future of the royal family appeared to be more uncertain than it had ever been, they worked together to find a way forward. Kate was well aware that the reputation of the monarchy had suffered significant damage. In addition to the fact that Charles's reputation was in shambles, the public's faith in the royal family was at an all-time low. The Queen's health was showing signs of deterioration. In spite of the fact that the days turned into weeks, Kate Middleton's determination only grew stronger. She was aware that the monarchy was confronted with challenges that were unlike anything it had ever encountered before, and that change was necessary for the monarchy to continue existing. Continuing to rely on customs and the conventional approaches to completing tasks was no longer sufficient. It was necessary for the royal family to become more transparent, honest, and trustworthy in order to regain the faith of the general public. Through her actions, Kate has become a new symbol of hope for the monarchy. She has made transparency, accountability, and integrity the foundation of her actions. Kate stepped into a more significant role, taking on responsibilities that carried a great deal of weight on her shoulders with the full support of the Queen. Even when the pressures of public scrutiny were at their highest, she handled every challenge with grace without showing any sign of weakness. Her capacity to maintain composure and her unyielding dedication to restoring the monarchy's reputation earned her respect not only within the royal family, but also beyond its confines in a short amount of time. She was admired by many people because she demonstrated that true strength does not originate from status, but rather from remaining grounded and concentrating on what is truly important. Not only did Kate's actions aim to preserve the monarchy, but they also aimed to make it more approachable and in line with the values that are prevailing in a world that is constantly evolving. During this time, Camilla's story went in a completely different direction. Her previous scandals overshadowed everything else, which led to her influence waning, despite the fact that she was once a central figure in royal affairs. Due to the fact that her name became associated with controversy, she took a step back from the public eye and left the palace behind. The swiftness with which Camilla fell from grace served as a potent reminder of the ways in which deception and ambition can lead to one's downfall. A situation that had appeared to be resilient in the past now appeared to be a cautionary tale, demonstrating how crucial trust and authenticity are in the public sphere where it is concerned. On the other hand, Kate Middleton has emerged as a shining example of what the future holds for the American royal family. The rise of her career represented the beginning of a new chapter, one that promised to put the errors of the past behind them and construct something more robust. Kate was aware of the significance of adjusting to contemporary times while simultaneously paying homage to the extensive history of the royal family. She exerted the utmost effort to infuse the monarchy with a new sense of purpose, striking a balance between progress and tradition. Many people were inspired by her determination, which offered hope that the organization could not only survive, but also thrive in a world that's constantly changing. The difficulties that the royal family had to face were enormous, and the road that lay ahead of them was anything but smooth. However, under Kate's leadership, there was a revitalized sense of purpose and direction with the organization. The power that she possessed provided the monarchy with a genuine opportunity to triumph over its challenges and win back the trust that it had lost. Not only did Kate's plan for the future involve the protection of the crown, but it also included the revitalization of its significance into the future. There was a fork in the road for the royal family, but with Kate at the helm, they had the opportunity to construct something that would stand the test of time and be founded on principles of integrity and selflessness. Is it possible that the bombshell presented by Carole Middleton will reveal deeper cracks within the royal family? On the other hand, is this merely a strategic move to change the balance of power? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and don't forget to share your thoughts.